I've always believed that learning is a journey that never ends. To me, society is the greatest university, vibrant, ever-changing classroom, where every moment, every interaction, every challenge teaches us something new. I'm passionate about this process, not just because it builds knowledge, but because it shapes who we are as people. We're often taught that learning is a stepping stone to a job, a paycheck, a secure future. But I see it differently. We should work to fuel our learning, to keep our minds curious, our hearts open, and our spirits alive. Education isn't a phase you complete, it's a lifelong adventure that keeps us growing, dreaming, and becoming better versions of ourselves. When I think about the future of education, I envision a system that prepares our children for the real world, not just to pass exams, but to tackle life's challenges with courage, creativity, and resilience. Life is messy, conflicts are inevitable. You can't avoid them, but you can learn to face them head-on, to work through them with wisdom and determination. I've been thrilled with the progress in education over the past 2 years, but there's one idea I'm burning to bring to primary schools. I want every child to read at least 1,000 stories from the East and 1,000 from the West. Why? Because our kids shouldn't grow up seeing the world as divided East versus West, us versus them. We can wait until high school or college to introduce rigid categories like Western history or Chinese religion. That's too complicated, too divisive. From the earliest years, children should develop a global perspective, learning to respect all cultures, races, and beliefs. This isn't just for some schools or some countries, it's for every student, everywhere. It's the foundation for a world that thrives on unity, not separation. Applause. I never had a single day of formal training on how to be a CEO. Early in my career, one of my venture capitalists pulled me aside and said, "Jack, you should step down if you don't know how to be a CEO." I looked at him, smiled, and said, "You're right, I don't know yet, but I'm going to learn." That moment was a turning point. Later, I realized I didn't need to fit the mold of a traditional CEO. My strength came from my years as a teacher, skills like inspiring others, building trust, and guiding people to believe in themselves. Those are the roots of leadership, and they've carried me further than any business school ever could. The power of failure and persistence. Looking back, my journey is defined by failures more than I can count. My path through education was anything but smooth. I failed the university entrance exams in China 3 times. Back then, failing wasn't uncommon, but for me, each rejection felt like a personal blow. The weight of disappointment grew heavier with every attempt, yet something inside me refused to give up. After years of persistence, I was accepted into Hangzhou Teachers College. To many, it was a lesser school of 4th or 5th-tier university. But for me, it was a lifeline. It wasn't just about the lessons in the classroom. It was about learning to push through adversity, to keep going when the world seemed to say no. Those failures were my greatest teachers. They taught me resilience, the value of persistence, and the power of a mindset rooted in growth. I remember sitting alone after my 3rd exam failure, my head spinning with doubt. But a question kept surfacing. If not now, when? If not me, who? That became my guiding light, a mantra that carried me through every challenge in my career. Too many people see failure as the end of the road, but I've always believed it's the start of a new path. Failure doesn't break you. It forces you to confront your weaknesses, to adapt, to find new ways forward. I've faced plenty of closed doors. For years, I've wrestled with feelings of inadequacy, of not being good enough. But there was always a small spark of hope that kept me going, a belief that I could find a way. That determination shaped who I am today. It's why I tell young people, don't run from failure. Embrace it, learn from it. Let it push you toward something greater. Failure is a teacher, not a verdict. Let me share a story. When I was young, I applied for a job at a hotel. I was so excited, practicing my introduction, imagining myself in the role. I didn't get it. The rejection stung, but it made me think, what can I do better next time? That question, always seeking improvement, became my compass. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about using it to grow. Another time, I applied to be a police officer. I was turned down again, told I wasn't fit for the role. Instead of giving up, I kept searching for opportunities, each rejection sharpening my resolve. A new vision for education. When I was a student, China's education system needed a serious overhaul, and in many ways, it still does. Teaching was often left to those who weren't seen as the top students, as if education was a fallback career. That never made sense to me. How could we spark a revolution in learning if we didn't value our teachers? But at Hangzhou Teachers College, I learned a vital truth. Being a great teacher isn't about having perfect grades or the most degrees. It's about inspiring others, igniting their curiosity, and helping them see their own potential. Teaching transformed me not just as a professional, but as a person. In those classrooms, I discovered the true power of education. It's not about creating uniform graduates, but about empowering unique individuals. Every student is different, with their own dreams, talents, and struggles. A teacher's role is to guide them toward discovering who they can be, not to mold them into someone else's idea of success. As we look to the future, I believe diversity of thought will be our greatest asset. We treat schools like assembly lines, producing identical graduates. We'll end up with robots, not innovators. My own journey wasn't about memorizing facts. It was about turning setbacks into stepping stones, about learning to see challenges as opportunities. That mindset has defined me as a leader, and it's what I want for the next generation. Success isn't about how quickly you reach your goal. It's about the resilience you show along the way. Failure is temporary, but learning lasts forever. Let me tell you about a moment that shaped my view of education. One day, during my teaching years, a shy student came to me after class. She was struggling, convinced she wasn't good enough. I sat with her, listened, and told her, "You don't have to be perfect, you just have to try." Over time, I watched her confidence grow. Not because I gave her all the answers, but because I believed in her. That's what education should do. Lift people up, show them they're capable, and give them the tools to shine. Another student, a boy who barely spoke in class, once shared his dream of becoming a writer. I encouraged him to write a short story. It wasn't perfect, but it was his, and that spark of creation changed how he saw himself. Years later, he sent me a copy of his first published book. That's the power of education. It's about transformation, not just information. The purpose of university. I often talk to high school students in China and ask, "What's your passion? What do you want to do with your life?" Too often, they say, "I don't know. I just want to get into a good university." When I ask why, they shrug. "Because it'll get me a job." That breaks my heart. So many young people chase degrees without knowing why, thinking it's a golden ticket to security. But it's not. In my 20 years at Alibaba, I learned that most university graduates needed retraining from the ground up. A degree doesn't guarantee a job, and it doesn't prepare you for the real world. What makes the difference? Teachers. I've seen how one teacher's belief in a student can change their trajectory. My own education showed me this contrast in stark relief. The impact of teachers. Let me tell you about my English teacher. She wasn't even trained in English. She was a math teacher, reassigned because of a shortage. Yet, she left a lasting mark on me. One day, she said, "Jack, your pronunciation is better than mine." Those words, from someone learning alongside us, lit a fire in me. Her honesty, her encouragement, gave me confidence I didn't know I had. It showed me the power of a teacher's belief. Contrast that with my chemistry teacher. We clashed. I struggled with the subject, and his lack of faith in me made it worse. That disconnect taught me something crucial. The relationship between teacher and student is everything. When a teacher invests emotionally, showing trust, care, and support, the impact goes beyond grades. It shapes who you become. Great teachers don't just teach subjects. They teach resilience, self-belief, and the courage to keep going. This applies to business, too. Success isn't about technical mastery alone. It's about believing you can learn, adapt, and grow. My English teacher, with her limited training but boundless passion, became one of my greatest influences. She showed me that it's not about having all the answers. It's about connecting, motivating, and inspiring. That's the true mark of a teacher. I recall another moment from my teaching days. A student was failing, not because he lacked ability, but because he lacked confidence. I spent extra time with him, not drilling formulas, but talking about his dreams. Slowly, he started to believe in himself. Years later, he wrote to me, saying those conversations changed his life. That's the power of teaching. It's about transformation, not just test scores. Another time, I had a student who was disruptive, always acting out. Instead of punishing him, I asked why he was so restless. He opened up about feeling lost. We worked together to channel his energy into a project he cared about, and he ended up becoming one of the most engaged students in the class. Teachers don't just impart knowledge, they change lives. This perspective shapes how I lead. Like a teacher trusts their students, a leader must trust their team. A leader's role isn't to be the smartest to empower others to surpass their own limits. As I often say, if you want to catch the rabbit, don't try to change the rabbit, change yourself. The AI era, differentiation over standardization. The Industrial Revolution was about uniformity building systems, streamlining processes. But in the AI era, we need to celebrate what makes us unique. We must nurture individuality, not sameness. Technology, like AI, isn't here to control us. It's here to empower us. True fairness in education means giving every child the tools to become their best self, not forcing them into a one-size-fits-all mold. I've always pictured schools as zoos, vibrant with all kinds of animals, each with its own strengths and quirks. That's how I built my company. I didn't want a farm of identical chickens or ducks. I wanted a team that was diverse, versatile, and bold. Education should do the same: celebrate differences, spark creativity, and prepare kids to stand out in a world that's changing faster than ever. In a world where machines can process data and solve problems in seconds, what sets humans apart? Our creativity, our emotions, our ability to think differently. Education must foster these qualities, not suppress them. We need to teach kids to dream, to question, to imagine possibilities machines can't conceive. I remember visiting a school where students were encouraged to create their own projects, from building simple apps to writing poetry. The joy in their eyes, the pride in their work, that's what education should be about. It's not about rote learning. It's about igniting passion. The importance of embracing failure. Failure is inevitable, but it's not the end, it's a beginning. I learned this through countless rejections. I applied for 30 jobs and got turned down every time, including by KFC. Out of 24 applicants, 23 were hired. I was the odd one out. Couve crushed me, but I saw it as a challenge. Each no pushed me to try harder, to find new paths. This mindset, seeing failure as a teacher, is vital for young people. The world is unpredictable, full of hurdles. We need to teach resilience, to show kids that failure isn't something to fear, but something to learn from. It reveals your weaknesses and sparks growth. That's what sets innovators apart: the ability to get up, reflect, and keep moving. I live by a simple truth. If you have a dream, you'll never feel poor. No matter how tough things get, a clear vision and the will to pursue it make failure just a detour. Today's youth are often terrified of failing, but growth comes from embracing it. Every rejection I faced was a step toward something better. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. When I talk to young entrepreneurs, I stress this: failure doesn't define you, your response does. Let me share another story. Early in my career, I pitched an idea to a group of investors. I was nervous but hopeful. They rejected it outright, saying it was impractical. I could have given up, but instead, I went back, refined my idea, and tried again. That persistence led to breakthroughs I never could have imagined. Failure isn't a wall, it's a door. Another time, I tried starting a small translation business. It flopped, but the lessons I learned about managing people, understanding clients, became the foundation for Alibaba. Every failure builds you up, if you let it. Preparing for the future of work. The world is changing at a breathtaking pace. Technology is reshaping everything, from how we live to how we work. When I look at kids in schools today, I ask, are we preparing them for the future they'll face? Experts say that in 20 years, half of today's jobs may vanish. That's daunting, but it's also an opportunity. We need to teach children to be creative, adaptable, and independent thinkers. Too many schools still operate like factories, producing standardized graduates for a world that no longer exists. I see education differently, like a zoo, where every child is unique, with their own strengths to discover. Creativity will be the most valuable skill in the future, and we need to nurture it early. Our kids will inherit a world unlike ours, and the greatest gift we can give them is the ability to reinvent themselves. Technology doesn't scare me, excites me. But we must prepare kids for it. Education's future isn't about memorizing facts. It's about fostering critical thinking, curiosity, and resilience. We need a new model, one that values innovation, emotional intelligence, and adaptability. Machines will handle technical tasks, but they can't empathize, create, or dream. That's why emotional education is as crucial as academic learning. Teaching kids to collaborate, manage emotions, and solve problems creatively will equip them for a world where change is constant. What worries me isn't technology as whether we're giving kids the right tools. The future hinges on how we educate the next generation. The challenge is clear. Are we ready to meet it? I visited a rural school once where resources were scarce, but the teacher was incredible. She didn't just teach math or reading. She taught kids to believe in themselves, to work together, to dream big. One student told me he wanted to be an engineer to build bridges for his village. That's the kind of vision education should inspire, not just jobs, but purpose. Another time, I saw a group of kids working on a science project. They had no fancy equipment, just their creativity and teamwork. Their solution was brilliant, not because of resources, but because they were encouraged to think differently. Balancing technology and humanity. At Alibaba, we didn't call our technology artificial intelligence. We called it Alibaba Intelligence. We knew machines excel at logic analyzing data, spotting patterns, solving problems faster than humans. But there are things machines will never do. They can't feel love, spark creativity, or dream. Those are human strengths, and they're where our true power lies. Take love, it defies logic. We can't explain why we love someone. It's messy, unpredictable, human. Creativity is the same. It comes from the heart, the mind, the chaos of being alive. At Alibaba, we use technology to monitor transactions, detect fraud, streamline operations. But true innovation, creating something new, something groundbreaking, always came from people. The challenge ahead is balancing technology with humanity. AI is a tool, not the goal. We should use it to improve lives, to solve problems, but never at the cost of what makes us human. The most profound solutions will always come from our ability to dream, connect, and create. As we dive deeper into the AI era, we must ensure technology serves us, not the other way around. I remember a moment at Alibaba when we were developing a new platform. The tech was impressive, but it was the team's creative ideas born from late-night discussions, not algorithms, that made it a success. That's the human edge, and we must nurture it. Leadership as teaching. At Alibaba, I saw myself less as a CEO and more as a chief education officer. Leadership is like teaching. A great teacher wants their students to surpass them. A leader's job is the same: to inspire, empower, and help their team achieve more than they thought possible. When that venture capitalist told me to give up the CEO role, I just smiled. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing, I thought, but I'll figure it out. He was partly right. I wasn't a traditional CEO, but I realized I didn't need to be. My strength came from my teaching roots, trusting others, guiding without controlling, planting seeds of confidence. That's how I led at Alibaba. I didn't want to be the boss who made every call. I wanted to empower my team, to give them the freedom to innovate and take risks. Trust breeds creativity and commitment. When you believe in people, they rise. Leadership isn't about being the smartest, it's about making others feel capable of greatness. Like a teacher cheering for their students, I wanted my team to dream big, to push boundaries, to create something extraordinary. I recall a late-night meeting at Alibaba when we were struggling with a new project. Instead of dictating solutions, I asked my team, "What do you think?" Their ideas, born from that trust, turned the project around. That's the power of leadership as teaching. Another time, a young employee was hesitant to share her idea, fearing it wasn't good enough. I encouraged her to speak, and her suggestion ended up shaping a major campaign. Leadership is about unlocking potential, just like teaching. Teamwork and collaboration. Education shapes not just individuals, but entire societies. Take sports. In China, with over 1 billion people, we struggle to field a soccer team that can beat a tiny nation like the Maldives with just 400,000 people. Why? It's not about talent, it's about teamwork. Our schools excel at producing individual stars, like in ping pong, but we falter in team sports. This reflects a deeper issue. Our education system prioritizes individual achievement grades, rankings over collaboration. In the future, collaboration will be everything. The world of work and innovation demands people who can unite, trust each other, and solve problems together. Sports teach this better than any textbook. They show kids how to work as a team, recover from setbacks, and rely on one another. These lessons extend to business, relationships, life. We need to transform schools into places where collaboration is as valued as calculus. Emotional education teaching kids to connect, empathize, and work together is just as critical as academic learning. If we want the next generation to thrive, we must teach them the art of teamwork. True innovation happens not in isolation, but in the messy, beautiful process of collaboration. I recall visiting a school where kids were working on a group project. They argued, laughed, and brainstormed together. By the end, they'd created something none of them could have done alone. That's the spirit we need to foster not just in schools, but in life. Another time, I saw a basketball team of kids who barely knew each other learn to pass, support, and win together. That's the power of collaboration. It builds bonds and creates results. The importance of adaptability. Business taught me the power of adaptability. The world changes fast, trends shift, technologies evolve, needs transform. Those who adapt thrive. Entrepreneurship is about adjusting, rethinking, reinventing. When we started Alibaba, we had no roadmap for e-commerce. It was uncharted territory. We changed plans, tweaked strategies, sometimes overhauled everything. That flexibility fueled our growth. Adaptability isn't just for business, it's for people. Those who keep learning, stay open, and pivot with grace will succeed. It's a skill built through challenges. Open your mind, embrace change, see obstacles as opportunities. In a world that never stops moving, success belongs to those who reinvent themselves. I remember a moment early at Alibaba when a competitor launched a feature we hadn't anticipated. We could have panicked. Instead, we adapted, learned, and came back stronger. That's the mindset we need to teach flexibility in the face of change. Another time, we faced a technical glitch that threatened a major launch. Instead of giving up, we pivoted, found a workaround, and launched successfully. Adaptability isn't just a skill, it's a superpower. The future of education is collective. Every child enters the world like a startup entrepreneur full of potential. Learning to navigate challenges, to work with others, to seek support. Education isn't just about shaping individuals, it's about designing humanity's future. The way we teach today will shape the world tomorrow, and the people we are today will shape the education of the future. My first job was teaching, and I hope my last is too, working with you. Learning from you, debating ideas, finding solutions together. I'm no expert. I'm an amateur with a passion for learning. Let's reimagine education not as a factory, but as a zoo, vibrant with diversity and possibility. Let's teach kids to embrace failure, to collaborate, to think creatively, to adapt. Let's prepare them to thrive, to dream big, to make the world better. Together, we can shape a future where learning never stops and every child becomes their best self. Thank you.